So demos. So we already made one for this question.
I think I had a demo from last week that I never got around to doing. Users and permissions and roles and stuff.
Anyone else?
I can make a demo of the admin dashboard drag and drop.
Yes, I was about to ask you actually. Dropping and dragging. Okay, updates version 1, ready to merge, PR merge. This one logs out disabled users from Mateo. I found a way to invalidate currently not connected, but the next time you connect, if it was disabled, if the user is disabled, then I'm not sure is it logging you out? I'm not sure it's logging you out, but your existing cookie won't work the next time you try to log in. So when the session is done, and to do that, it's just storing the last logout etc on moderation. And Orchard Core, dev branch. 9 here. Fix workflow blocking activities index table indices name length for PostgreSQL. Because it's too long.
Yeah, exactly. For PostgreSQL uniquely only.
So why don't we see that in the functional tests?
It was disabled because they were not working. Yeah, then you can.
Yeah, it's a combination of that, plus also the way Postgres just truncates them, or uses another, when it's got found another name, so it kind of doesn't work, but it still passes.
Yeah, because here it was activity ID and activity name, and it was truncating at activity.
Okay.
It was removing the ID, so we had like two indices that had the same name.
Okay.
So it was failing.
Good. Question. Okay, we saw that last week already, so something related. Fix the database shell configuration sources, no exception. Okay. No ref. ILocalClock. So IClock. Yeah, so this one is no, it's singleton apparently.
Oh, it's scoped.
Scoped?
Yeah,
So
and we were heading this in a singleton.
So if it's scoped and it's in singleton, the solution is not to go back to item zone, but to resolve it when it's used, and then to release it. Something like this. Wrong? This is still wrong. I mean, it's less. It's working, but it's still wrong. So I think it's a. If it's.
I would prefer like you using the ILocalClock because this is what it's meant for. So if we have a solution for this, then.
So Jean-Pierre will tell us if the solution is if we can use ILocalClock somehow by resolving it.
Yeah.
When the background task runs and done.
Yeah.
It will be better. Separate IDX index for new columns and all installation. Okay, so splitting the migration into okay. Update that SDK. And dependencies. Null check on ISiteService now using background service. Okay. Still doing the conversions. So. Time zone. Yeah. Same thing. Maybe you can't resolve it. Maybe you can resolve it there when it's the same way it's done there in time zone. At that point, resolve I don't see why it's an issue here to resolve ILocalClock just here. And then maybe the solution is to not give the local clock as a reference, but just the time zone from the local clock. That's the solution. And that's the issue and the solution. Because here, even if you resolve it, if it's passed in this instance, it's kept. So the solution might be to just resolve it and get the time zone from that, and not get a time zone from the setting, but a time zone from the local clock, and pass only the time zone and the standard clock.
Yeah, because it's redundant. We're doing the same thing in different places, and yeah.
And it's wrong. It's doing something right now, but it's wrong because it might be another logic than the site settings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Use BaseUrl in background tasks. Okay. Yeah, because there is no ambient context, so it's setting it. I see the issue. It was fine. Only one query in ContentAliasLiquidTemplateEventHandler. Okay, optimizing just one query, and then reusing the result instead of doing another query.
What we also talked about with this, JT and I, was an idea of his that it might be useful to have an alias entries table like we do auto root entries, so that as we're resolving aliases, we don't need to make a query on the index. We can actually just track them.
Okay.
As we do with auto roots. Which seems like a potentially good idea, I think.
It depends on how much it's used. So if it's used a lot, then yeah, makes sense to have the entry table. Yep.
Sorry, you broke up there, so I didn't quite hear the response.
Oh, I said yes.
Cool, let's do it, JT.
Add redirect to returnUrl after user edit. Yeah, we merged that. So there was no issue. Just keep the returnUrl if it's passed after user edit. Update from node-sass to dart-sass because node-sass is deprecated. So we do dart-sass, which is actually used by gulp.sass. New contributor. Tweak in the fix. Using Fluid.100, it contains the time zones filters, so you can now convert your dates to different time zones, including UTC, because by default it's using local time zone in Fluid, in Liquid. Update dependencies.
Is it like a full version 1 release as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, excellent.
Another one, but it wasn't updated. It has fixes and features. Index mapping. Useless change. Oh. So this is the same. Complex change. Oh, what happened? So this is the same change that you did in, but on every other handler.
Yeah, just following through on that with some of the other ones, and in some cases where we can optimize using when.
Okay.
Yeah, it's complicated enough and has happened with enough parts now that it might be worth us writing a base class to actually handle some of that stuff, but we'll see.
GraphiQL 140. Properties to setup context. Oh, I forgot about this one. So setup context property. So now the idea is that there used to be a setup context class that still exists, that had some properties like site name, admin username, admin user ID. And this setup context class will be populated by the setup screen and then passed to an event handler, setup event handler. well, all the properties we pass to the event handler. Why do we have step text somewhere else, actually? But yeah, these all the events will have these properties. And when we want a new one, we need to change everything that requires a new one and say, okay, well, all the setups should provide that. So now the idea is that the setup just provide what they need to provide in the properties dictionary. And then the services that implement this event handler just we pick what they expect to have. So in this case, you see admin user ID is just a property on the properties object now. There just should be a few elements that are coded. In this case, one, shell settings in the context. Setup constants. This is not breaking. Okay, so it will be easier to make custom setup screens. Initially, Yanis just added the properties dictionary, but we said, well, let's just move also the existing properties into this dictionary. Update your message in BackgroundTask. Okay. Contributor. Bring the news dependency in AdminDashboard package. AdminDashboard. Okay. Commit merge with Bootstrap for 6. Install Marina. Fix Lucene boost values on query. It's not the best code I've seen. So the PR this morning. If field contains that, so what's the format? That's field name, then apostrophe, and then the value.
Yeah. No.
So field contains tripar, so split last. Split last. It contains split last, you get the weight. Okay.
So yeah, it was already in a dictionary, so I'm removing it and just adding the right value because we pass. Else the value will be that string plus the char plus the the float. So
here you are splitting it twice. What next time? Split once, you get values, and then and then if there are two values, you know there is one. If there is one value, you know there is none. And then you can know and say, okay, the first is the field, and the second is the value. So you need to split twice, and you don't use. But that works. It's just repetition. Bootstrap 4.6 again, because it was there, and now it's there. Okay, cool. Questions? I hope we can get this one. So yeah, we can talk about this one because I assume it will be merged this week. I haven't checked. I just saw the title. It's interesting. I want to see what's happening there. But where is the one? This multi-targeting net 5031. So what's Jeremy? No, David Ferguson created a PR to multi-target every project on net 5.0 and net 3.1, and also have the CMS project and all the other projects that need to start, like the MVC sampler. Target only 5.0. The templates are configurable to either target 5.0 or 3.1. So when you do a new template, you can select which value will be generated. But the default will be 5.0 now, and will still generate all the packages for both targets, which means if you have your app targeting 3.1 because you want so, you can still target all the packages for 3.1. But the default, if you take the source code, will be 5.0. Okay? Because now it's stable and it's faster. And when we move to 6.0, we'll just support 6.0 and 5.0 because 6.0 will be an LTS. Today, the only LTS is 3.1, so we'll keep shipping on 3.1. So that's good. So I approved the PR. I just pinged Chantieri. I'd like him to also approve. Everyone else here said they were okay, but Chantieri, I want to be sure because there are some changes in the way the build pipeline is done, the static files location, so tricky. Should be merged this weekend. David mentioned also it's faster. It's visibly faster. Okay. Demo din permissions.
Sure, let me, excuse me, let me share my screen. Now we'll get this over nice and quickly so we can see the dashboard widgets. So we had a demo late last year, I think it was. When was it? December, with some improvements to users and the ability to actually secure roles and what have you. There were a few changes requested, so just coming back with some of the changes. So on the right-hand side of the screen here, I'm logged in as the admin user, and as you can see, I've got permissions on everybody, and I've got a few users created here which only belong to certain roles. So this one is only part of the editor role, and when logged in as him, on this left-hand side here, I can still see all the users. But if I picked one that is the moderator, so you have to bear with me because I have to remember exactly what I did here. But we have the ability to edit this user. But the only role that I can assign is the editor role because this is the only permission that this current logged in user has in terms of assigning, and also have rights at the moment to enable and disable them, but that's configurable via role as well. So there's only some users that I can delete, users in all the roles that that are only in the roles that I can manage. And yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. It's what we were looking at it previously. Let me run through the permissions that you can see as well now. So if we go to, then we have permissions to manage users, which is kind of the overarching permission, and that you can do everything with that. You have permission to view users, which is just to give you access to the list. And then you have permissions to manage the users. Managing means being able to delete them, to disable them, to change their email address, to reset their password. And then you have permissions to be able to assign roles to users. So if you have the assign editor role, you can just assign editor to everybody. So the idea was to give you the ability to kind of delegate some of the work that goes with managing users to another user, but not give them too many permissions to actually go and lock you out of the system as the administrator, for example. Yeah, so that's what we ended up with.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Very common to be a user that can only manage a specific group of other users. Like I'm the editor manager, so I can only manage within the editor group and remove, add people, change their usernames, things like this. Thank you very much. So is it merged when?
No, it's not merged. I just wanted to, because it's slightly different to what we originally talked about, wanted to run it past everybody and see if they had any issues with it. Obviously, you see all the users here when you're logged in with restrictions, but you can only do certain things to them. So we'll probably merge it soon if nobody has any objections.
So you took into consideration all the comments we made last time?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. That's looks good to me. So I don't see anything. So unless you're cheating us and not mentioning something we said, but it looks good. In terms of permissions, I think that was a discussion. What kind of permissions? Granularity, like the manage roles and assign people in roles.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's mostly covered. It should provide enough flexibility, and if it doesn't, we can always add some more.
Something that is unrelated to that, and I see might miss, is under each permission describe what it means. We use the generic terms like manage, manage, view, and stuff like that. Manage meaning everything, but when you explain that, like what does manage users in a role moderator mean? That might be interesting. So that's sometime to add a description to explain what it does, because people might not realize that's what they want. Like they don't know, like they want to do something and they go into this screen like intuitively, and maybe it's not obvious that this is the checkbox to tick, and that's what they want, because manage users in role moderator, I don't know. But if we wrote what it did exactly, maybe it would be better.
Yeah, no, I would probably agree with that. There's a lot of confusion around how permissions work and what effective means and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of really good documentation written for 01 around this, around permissions and what have you, which we should probably try and get into the Orchard Core documentation. Because it translates reasonably well, and all the work's already been done there. So that would be good to bring over, I think.
Yeah, people ask for what is allow effective. Why can't I uncheck effective?
Nobody understands that one, but it's all right there in the Orchard.
Well, you do, right? Tell me, you do.
Oh, I think so.
Okay,
it confuses me every time when I go there, but I have to think about it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll no trouble.
Antoine, drag and drop.
Okay. I'm going to make a demo of this PR made by Niraj.
He's trying to remove the detail admin display type. Doesn't like it, but no, you have to keep it. So he removed it, but I put a comment on the PR. No, put it back.
Yeah. So if you enable the dashboard feature, you will be able to add new dashboard widgets, and now you will be able in a snap grid to order them and drag and drop them. So this is the default view. I am a user that has the permission to manage the dashboard. I already added a few dashboard widgets. So you can see there are multiple heights and widths. So if I want to edit, I click on Manage, and I am able to add a new HTML dashboard widget or to go back to the dashboard. And you can see that there are handles, so I can drag and drop the widgets. You can see that I am in edit mode, so for example, if I have a draft, it will be displayed, and if I have a published draft, it will be the latest version. But if I go back, this one will be hidden and this one will be the published version. So you see there is no 2 at the end, and there is not the draft widget. So I can click on the border of the card to change the size, or the height. And there are those actions buttons to edit, delete, or unpublish, publish, and discard. And when you edit, you are able to change manually the position, the width, and the height, and the properties of the dashboard widget. So for example, this one will be a 2 by 2. This one will be a 2 by 1, and this one will be a 1 by 2.
So can you resize the welcome to Orchard? It's the one. So for instance, the published draft 2, this is the unit of.
So at first it's a bit disturbing because if you don't have enough widgets, you will not have a widget passing at the line, at the next line.
What I mean is that here you can't have more than 6 horizontally, right?
Yes.
So the grid is 6. Okay. Even if you have a big screen, it's 6. I'm not saying it's bad. Just it seemed weird that one was that big.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. So if you try to resize it smaller, what I do, it just goes back to. So this is 1 and go even smaller. No, this one is 2. Okay. Go smaller. Take the smallest and go smaller. Take the first widget. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can go
okay,
below.
You can. Okay, this is read. Okay. Oh, it's nice still. So 6 seems good then.
Yeah, 6 seems pretty good to me. Going down any lower would be too many widgets.
And vertically.
If you have this one, you can have 7. If you have this one, the menu collapsed, you can have 7.
What do you mean? Oh, you can have 7 elements. I see.
Well, it's a little strange that they don't just resize to 6.
Yeah, that would keep it consistent. So it's like 6 elements and done. And you decide how many spaces it takes. Maybe that should be how it works. I'm sure it's just a CSS trait too. The other thing that shocks me when I see you resize is not to be able to see the snap. Like I would love the bar that you resize to snap to the actual value that it will take, because you don't know, like you miss one pixel and actually you didn't resize anything. You didn't see that before you drop the mouse.
Yeah, there is the yellow triangle. Yeah.
So there is a triangle to inject, but here it's good because you have the visual cue from where it will be, but I need the same thing when you resize. So it snaps, it's not like continuous resizing, it's just snap on the grid. That will be better.
Yeah, and even if the title is empty, the card header is displayed.
Okay, there are things to improve. Second thing, and I wrote that in the comment of the PR, I don't like the metadata list here when you're in view mode. So go back to view. I don't see why we display that 10 hours ago admin. That doesn't make any sense. So I will say it's because it's using detail and not detail admin. And maybe when it goes back to detail admin, it will disappear. But I don't think we should display that here. That doesn't make any value. And most of the time, that's what I said in the comments, users will be in view mode because once it's set up, you don't expect people to change it all the time. Like very rarely. So it doesn't make sense to say it's metadata, even draft or publish. So in edit mode, yes, maybe. Why not? And still, we could just have an icon to say it's draft or not in the toolbar with the title and the 3 dots. That will be sufficient, and that will not break the UI, how it's rendered. But that's about it. So I don't see why we display that or this information. At least as long as there is a zone where we can add some stuff like the actions, that's nice. Third comment is when you click there, I don't see why. There might be a technical reason, but the links should be with all the same size. I see here there are 2 sizes. If you click on the 3 dots, there is edit, delete, big, and then unpublish, small. So maybe it's just where it's coming from, or maybe it's, again, the detail display type that does that by default. So it's that detail admin. And that's about it. Oh, it's nice. And once it's working, I'm not sure we need to display the position, width, and height on the editor screen. Maybe we don't need to actually show up the editors because it's completely customizable now. Or it could be maybe a content type setting to display or not the editors when you edit the widget. So we can keep it, but just look at the settings. Do they want to see the editor or do they not want to see the editor, and then done. The same way we do for common metadata editor, we can just hide the text box by default because everything is done visually.
It was just a missing class on the anchor.
Okay, so that will be fixed at some point. Okay. It looks good.
Yeah.
Like it much. Told you, Antoine, just to the minimum, and then Niraj will make it beautiful.
Yeah, and find a way that you use the BTN group.
This will be fixed. I don't understand the view until you explain to me. I don't understand what view was doing. I will just say close editor or save or cancel or something like that, because you went into edit mode or leave edit mode or something like leave, close, cancel, something like that. Manage dashboard, yeah, that's fine. New, I prefer the add to be like in the other screens because it's more enticing. Like new, I'm like I don't know if it's new. Didn't talk to me. Add, I prefer.
And when I said I didn't want to see the date and owner, he said you could use admin placement to hide it.
Well, by default, if you use detail admin, it will be hidden by default. So that's why going back to detail admin will fix without doing anything most of the issues here.
Yeah.
So Dean commented also on that. We'll see. It's okay, I have write access to the PR. I can commit. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Niraj, and thanks, Antoine, for the demo. I share my screen, but I assume we are done with the demos. What do I have? I don't think I have anything. I made some progress on the Fluid.Core integration. It's working. I was working on perf, but everything was working. I got all the setup passing and the sites running, so that's good. I pushed that later. What else? Questions, comments, topics?
Yeah, I tried to make a PR about meta tags, but maybe it's too simple. Maybe we want something more complex to edit all the fields related to SEO.
Yeah, there are multiple PRs right now doing that, right? There is the one from Seth that's still open, and there is a module, an existing module from Bit. Is that it? Edgeplay?
Yeah, so Pete's got one.
About robots, maybe?
We've got one, Seth's got one.
Yes. And there is one already from Seth in this thing. So I assume it should be a mix of what Seth and Edgeplay have done, because they already cover many things. Even Seth here. Where is that? How do I find it? Meta?
SEO, yeah.
See. So maybe it would be better to just try his PR and see what's missing and fix it, because, and look, Peter. So I assume then he followed up with his own. Yeah, maybe that would be interesting to list what each of these PR do and see what we should have. And if we can just follow up on this one, for instance, because there is already a PR there. So yeah, when you say it's too simple, it will definitely probably be too simple. There are so many things and people won't be satisfied. At the same time, I don't want it to be too complex. Like, do we need all these things? I'm not judge, I don't know anything. So commits, when was the last commit? Was emerged recently, so it should bid. Should try this one and look also. That would be the first thing to do. Try it, list what it's doing, list what Edgeplay is doing, and then see if we can just be fine with that, or there is even first time. I assume you can't hear the sound, right? So metadata part added to a content item.
Yeah, and it allows you to add a dynamic markups.
Well, should I put full screen? Wow.
So some of the questions could be, do we put it in a specific tab?
Yeah, that's definitely something we should do, I think.
And do we include it in all recipes, in every template we are using on some content types like the page, the article, the blog?
In one of the recipes, maybe just to show its use. And I don't think it's necessary. As long as there is a commutation, people will look for it and find it and add it if they need it. So not too worried about that. But as I said, I have no idea about how to do correct SEO and data management. So we have to trust the experts there who do sites and know the needs. And that's why I want to list the features from this PR and HPlay to see what's common and has to be there, and then what's missing or could be added later. So what's missing, just so that we know that if we merge something right now, it can be added later. See, not that we are blocked in the design decision. So the metadata part sounds fine. The social media part sounds fine too. Okay, so we should just check what something like that. What's the other side?
HUK on GitHub.
Oh yeah. Oh, this one. Attach content for like the okay, so there is also the notion of meta tag part. Redirects. Robot management. So apparently mostly meta tags redirects, both name redirects. So you see meta tags, that could be a feature. So that's fine. So even these things, robot management, redirects could be different features of the same module. So yeah, SEO module and start with meta tags like Seth has done. And then probably also here the social media part. And I don't know what parts they have here. But I see that the tags, models, descriptions, so images, title. So there is image. So yeah, it's the same as Seth apparently. Description, title, images is different. What does images is for what
Open graph.
How do we see that use?
I think it's done in the in one of his drivers. I spoke to him about it a little while ago on GitHub on Gitter.
Oh, the driver itself could do that, right? Doesn't have to be a view. Interesting. This is resource management. Let me see. Nope, there is nothing that driver here. Meta tag service register part. Okay, service. Register by route, register Twitter. Okay. Okay, so if there is an image, it will automatically register these metadata. And on Ceph PR, it's actually a custom part apparently where you set the values for these ones. Yes, so safe solution looks good because 2 parts, then you can decide what you want to include as metadata by adding the 2 parts if you want, or just one. And maybe you have more granularity and customization in the social media. The social media part. Social metadata part. You see open graph title, so you can have different titles and values for things. Yeah, someone should try this PR and give us a report, make a demo at this meeting. We have a video from him. And give feedback on what we miss, because I can't give feedback on what's missing and what's important in terms of, if you Dean, I assume Jasmine will have some experience also. I don't. I know about title description, that's it. Okay, yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. We should look into that. Should some cache implemented? Yes, always, if we can. Not sure it's necessary because it's part of the content item. So if the blog post is rendered, the blog post is loaded and it's metadata also. Oh, and get yeah. So this property should only means that you just need to support some sort of liquid in the settings of the field, so you can, like Orchards, like Alias, generate the value of this thing from something else, from another field, if you want to. Not provide a text box, but okay, this can be done later. Cool. Done. On time. Questions? Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday for triage or next Tuesday for the next meeting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.